Alright, Saber community, this is Denzel. I wanted to share with you a little bit about how I do my builds. Generally, I like to machine everything from scratch, and especially on some builds that I have a particular interest in, I want to make everything myself. And so this is an example of one of those. This is a Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi Hero build. And here's a bunch of pieces. This is probably a year's worth of work off and on, calendar year, maybe not a year of working on it continuously, but you get the idea. I posted various pictures of this on Facebook over the years, but I pulled it all out of my box and decided to show you basically what's involved when I started making these builds. Generally, I start with the drawing. I got a drawing online, this one, and it's an example. You can find this online if you just search for it. I start with a drawing like that, so if I can leverage public, work that's been published to get an idea of what I'm going to be building. I also look at reference art, things of that sort. Try to get dimensions by known things like the size of someone's thumb, and then I can compare that and kind of go, how big is a thumb? What are the dimensions? There are many other guys that produce runs and they do similar types of things, and there's a lot of work involved in that. But I like to show you machining is really what I enjoy doing. I like the machining aspect of building sabers and just the technical challenges of figuring out how to do it. So here's just a bunch of component parts that I've machined over the years on this. This is I don't know what you'd call it. Looks like a chalice piece, but it's the crystal chamber housing. And then over here I have all components that make up the crystal chamber that go into that. Generally I start with base it around fins and rods and spacers. That's a very common technique that Brad Sloth Furnace had kind of really championed and shown in his build logs. And you can see there's all kinds of little fiddly little pieces, like hand machine little screw spacers you have to make, little tube spacers and crystal mounts and radiator fins and more mounts and screws and other mounting situations. This is going to be a den plug. This is going to be a NeoPixel, and this den is necessary, as you'll see later, for the epic reveal, Sloth Furnace style reveal on this. So of course, we have the whole front end, which is multiple components again. This is where the NeoPixel pins will be housed, and I'll make a custom piece to hold it, make it all secure. But the NeoPixel thing will go here, and the blade recesses around that. And we have the copper section, and this neck section mounted for the den connection, which fits up in nice, really tight. As you can see, it takes a lot of force to do this. Tight fit into the front section. I will have a securing mechanism once I get it all aligned and so forth to make sure that this doesn't come apart. I don't know if I'll glue it with a little bit of glue or put a really tiny couple hidden set screws in there to secure it. I haven't decided that. Threading really isn't an option, because if you thread this, then the rotational parts is really hard to complicated to figure out if you want to make everything align this way. So these slip fits, you can get a better alignment, but it's really tight. Yeah, there we go. And this is all multi-piece around a central, let me see if I can show you, a central threaded rod. So we have our central threaded rod, which is the anchor piece for all of the subcomponents. So you have the emitter section, this housing here for the LED and optics, if you want to use an LED or NeoPixel in this case. Copper piece, which also threaded on this back piece, all of it threads together. And then I usually will Loctite this once I'm happy with it, and only leave one part unthreaded that unthreads for servicing. As you can see, you've got this part comes off. A lot goes into these. There's just a lot of work. So when you wonder why people, guys charge real money for these builds, yeah, it's because there's real work. in these builds. That's why there's real money. You know, you can always go get one mass produced, even in these runs. They're essentially mass produced, but you will not get them to this level of quality and attention to detail. So here's the body, the handle body. Lots of multiple machine features in there. The crystal, where is that thing here? This thing mounts up into here and is aligned and secured with screws. You can see one of them protruding there. Multiple screws to hold it in place, so it's nice and rigid. And the crystal chamber components will go in there. I'll probably reassemble this off camera and then show that. Wire pass-throughs, a lot of work. Den mount. What else can I show you here? Control box, a lot of details in that, all machined by me. Now if you have a manual, or excuse me, if you have a CNC mill, then this detail here, this radius detail, pretty simple, right? You put it on the mill and you can adjust the Z-axis of the CNC to do this. But when you do this on a manual mill, not so easy. Setup and holding and fixturing is more involved. And so in this particular case, I'll give a little trick away. I held it in a vise. It was held in a vise, right? And then I had a boring bar come down. And then based on this radius that I needed, offset, and the boring bar come down and cut this feature. So that's how that was done on a manual mill. Still have a few more details to do here. The triangle LEDs, of course. Let's see what else. Oh, very complicated piece, the pommel. This is multiple pieces. It has a locking mechanism, right? As you can see, little cam locking. See how the little, I don't know if you can see it in there. Yeah, you can see it right there. All right. So that engages these rods. Yeah, I'm giving it all away, but it's okay. This isn't really my design. This is Brad's design that I got permission to use a couple years ago. So of course this retaining fits in there and will lock. Okay, there's multiple of those, and that's what holds the chamber, or the reveal, I should say. This will go down into through these channels. Oh, fat hands in the way. Through those channels, as you can see. Right, little spring action there. What else can I show? Oh, yeah, back to the pommel. So the pommel details. This is all machined on a manual mill. No CNC here, guys. And in fact, I will prove it by showing one of the blanks. So I had made a couple of these blanks because I knew I was going to mess up on these, and this is actually the second attempt on this, but I made 3 blanks. I might make another pommel just for something else, I don't know. But yeah, so they start off, which is the profile. Let's flip it around. Yeah, this is the angle. With the profile, a little bit of holding stock, and then on the milling machine, I will set up a rotary table, and then come in and remove for the cubes. And these cubes are a little more complicated than what you might first appear. If you notice, they are not straight. They have a 12 and a half, 15 degree angle here. So when you set this up in the mill, for all those interested in milling work, if you set it this way, how do you get that angle? Right? This angle. Well, there's a lot of math involved there, a little trigonometry, but if you set it offset by 15 degree, I don't know if I'm line that. Right? There we go, line up on these lines. And you get this line vertical to the cutter. So as you can see, this cube is offset. You get this vertical to the cutter. So you cut all these sides. Yeah. Alright, that are perpendicular. Now, did I say vertical? Perpendicular faced. So this and that are perpendicular to the table. That line's perpendicular. Then you mill out. Then you go and you offset the piece this way and you do all this side. And then you go down the middle. Actually, I go down the middle first and then I clean up the sides. Yeah, it takes a lot. But it's worth it. I wouldn't do these in production. Of course, I couldn't make any money if I did that in production. Of course, I don't make any money off these anyways. It's just a work of love, I guess you can call it. Alright, well, I just thought I would show some... Oh, I forgot this. Yeah. And then the chassis. This is a prototype 3D printed chassis. Originally, I was like, I'm going to machine something out of Delrin, and then I went, no, this is way too complicated to machine in Delrin. So, yeah, 3D printed that, designed that, hours and hours of work, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoy all the work. And also another chassis for holding components in button standoffs and levers and LED holders and machine. This is a cap. This will be in copper, but I didn't want to waste money on copper just to see if it worked. Copper is expensive, so I tried it in aluminum, so I'll have to machine another one of these in copper. There you have it, guys. I will take comments, but I will not take commissions. I'm not going to build these things for anybody else because it's just way too much work. I don't give away my time. I do it because I like to do it. But if you appreciate this type of video where I kind of talk about how I build things, I can do a few more. So thanks for watching.